Alright, Karina baby, today is the 28th. Let's find out what June story it is for today. This is the Four Seasons Farm. Alright. Four Seasons Farm. It was summertime and Robert was staying at his uncle's farm. One afternoon, Robert and Uncle Jack went for a walk. They went through the gate that had Four Seasons Farm on it. "What are seasons?" asked Robert. "There are 4 different times of the year," said his uncle. "They are called—" "What are they called?" said Robert. "Spring, summer, autumn, and winter," said his uncle. "One season follows another each year." As they walked, Uncle Jack talked about the seasons. "In springtime, the crops begin to grow," he said. "You can see tiny little buds on the trees and the hedges. Everything starts to wake up at the beginning of the year." Along the way, they saw sheep grazing by the river. "Do you have any lambs?" asked Robert. "The lambs were born in spring," said Uncle Jack. "It's summertime now. They're all grown up." "What happens in summer?" asked Robert. "Let's look around," said Uncle Jack. Robert pointed to the trees and the hedges. "They're covered with leaves," he said. "That's right," said Uncle Jack. "There are lots of flowers, too, in summer, and the sun helps to ripen the crops." They walked along the fields of corn that were turning yellow. "The crops will soon be ready to harvest," said Uncle Jack. "What comes next?" asked Robert. "I've forgotten." "Autumn," says his uncle. "That's the season where some leaves change color. They turn orange, yellow, and brown. And you'll find nuts and berries ready for picking in the autumn. Then the squirrels can collect them and store them, can't they?" said Robert. "Yes," said his uncle. "It's a busy time of year. The apples in the orchard are ready to pick them too. We pick them in boxes and take them to market." "I know what comes next," said Robert. "Winter." "The coldest season of the year," said Uncle Jack. "When it's winter, we bring the crows into the barn for shelter." "Oh, when it's winter, we bring the cows into the barn for shelter." "I like snow," said Robert. "I bet you do," said his uncle. "But it's the time of year when nature has to rest. The trees are bare, and some animals curl up and sleep all through the winter. Then the seasons start all over again," said Robert. "That's right," said his uncle. "We plow the fields in the autumn and the winter months, ready to sow more crops in the spring. So that's why it's called the Four Seasons," said Robert. And they walked back to the farmhouse. And look at this. So we have the 4 seasons here, the Four Seasons Farm. This is summer, fall, spring, summer, fall, and winter. The 4 seasons. That was a good story. Alright, let's see what's next in our literature book. Yesterday was Rumpelstiltskin. Today is the Fir Tree. Deep in the forest, there stood such a pretty little fir tree. It grew in a nice spot. The sun could reach it. There was fresh air in abundance, and all around it were many taller comrades, firs as well as pines. But this little fir tree was in a great hurry to grow up. It paid no attention to the warm sunshine or the fresh air, and it took no notice of the farmers' children who went around chanting and picking strawberries or raspberries. Often they would sit by the little tree with a whole jug full of raspberries, or holding strawberries, feathered on a long straw, and exclaimed, "It's that baby tree, the sweetest thing you ever saw." But the fir tree did not like to hear that at all. The next year it had added a little section to its growth, and the following year one still longer. You can tell the fir tree's age by the numbers of its sections it has. "Oh, I wish I were as tall as the others," sighed the little tree, "but it could spread my branches far and wide, and from my top see what the world looks like. The birds would build their nests in my branches, and when the wind was blowing, I should be able to nod with such dignity as the others. It found no pleasure in the sunshine, nor in the birds, nor in the rosy clouds that went sailing over the morning and the evening. The winter, when the ground was covered with glistening white snow, a hare would often come hopping along and jump right over it. How annoying that was! But 2 winters passed by, and it was a third. It was so tall that the hare was obliged to run around it. "Oh, if I could but grow and grow, become tall and old, then the only thing worth living for," thought the tree. "That's the only thing worth living for," thought the tree. In the autumn, the wood cutters would come and fill a few of the tallest trees. That happened every year, and the younger firs, which was now quite grown up, trembled with fear when it saw the splendid big tree fall to the ground with a crash. Their branches were lopped off so that they looked as naked and thin that they could hardly recognize them. They were loaded on a tinder wagon, and the horses dragged them away out of the forest. Where do you think they go? What would happen to them? In the spring, when the swallows and the stork arrived, the tree asked them, "Do you know where the other trees were taken? Did you meet them?" The swallows knew nothing about it, but the stork looked thoughtfully, nodded his head, and said, "Yes, I think I did meet them. Coming away from Egypt, I saw many new ships with splendid new masts. I dare say those were the trees you mean. They had a smell of fir about them. They wanted to be remembered to you. They looked grand, very grand. If only I were big enough to fly over the sea. Tell me, what is the sea really, and what does it look like?" What would they take too long to That would take too long to explain," said the stork as he walked away. "Enjoy your youth, rejoice in your healthy growth, and in the young life that is within you," said the sunbeam. And the wind kissed the tree, and the dew wept tears over it, but the fir tree did not understand. With the coming of Christmas, quite a number of very young firs were chopped down, some of them neither so tall nor so old as our tree, which was still restless and impatient to get away. Thus young firs, just the most beautiful ones, were not stripped of the branches. They were loaded onto tinder wagons, and horses dragged them away over the forest. "Where are they going?" asked the fir. Asked the fir tree. "They are not taller than I am. In fact, one of them was much smaller. Why were they all allowed to keep their branches? Where are they going?" We know," chirped the sparrows. "We've peeped in at the windows down in the town We know where they are going. The greatest pomp and splendor imaginable awaits them there. We've peeped in the windows, and we've seen them planted in the middle of a nice warm room and decorated with all the most beautiful things. Gleated apples, gingerbread toys, and many hundreds of bright candles. And then, asked the fir tree, quivering through all its branches, and then? What happened then? We haven't seen anything more than that, but it was too wonderful for words. Was I born for such a glorious destiny, I wonder? Exclaimed the tree, trembling with delight. This is even better than crossing the sea. I'm sick of lodging. If it were only Christmas now. I'm as tall and well grown as those trees which were taken away last year. Oh, if I were only loaded onto the wagon. Oh, that I were in that warm room in the midst of so much pomp and splendor. And then something still better, still more beautiful. What happened? Oh, why should they take such a trouble to decorate me? Something still greater, still more splendid, is bound to happen, but what? Oh, how I ache, how I yearn. I don't know myself what is wrong with me. Rejoice in me, said both the air and the sunshine. Rejoice in your flesh, youth. Over here in the open. But it did not rejoice at all. It grew and it grew. Winter and summer it stood there, evergreen, dark green. The people who looked at it said, "What a beautiful tree." And the following Christmas it was so first to be felled. The axe stuck deep into the marrow, and with a powerful sigh the tree fell to the ground. It suffered pain, it felt faint, and could not think of any happiness, for it was sad as parting from its home, from the place where it had grown up. It knew that it would never again see its dear old friends, and its bushes and flowers round, and perhaps not even the birds. It was anything but pleasant to say good-bye. The tree did not recover until it found itself unloaded in a yard with other firs, and heard a man say, "That one's a beauty. This is the one we want." The two servants in smart livery arrived and carried the fir into the beautiful great reception room. All round walls hung portraits, and beside the tile stove stood big Chinese jars with lions on their covers. There was rocking chairs, silk-covered sofas, large tables littered with pictures, books, and toys worth loading, and loads of money. At least, so the children said. And the fir tree was planted in a big tub filled with sand, but no one could see it was a tub, for it was covered with green cloth, and stood in a great many-colored carpet. How the tree trembled! What was going to happen? Manservants and young ladies began to decorate it. Oh, the branches! They hung little nests cut out of colored paper. Every net filled with sweets, glittered apples and walnuts hung down as if they grew there, and more than 100 red, blue, and white candles were fastened to the branches, dolls that looked exactly like real little children. The tree had never seen anything of the sort before, floating among the green branches, and up at the top was fixed a large star of gold tinsel. It was magnificent beyond words. "Tonight," they all said, "tonight it will be lit up." Oh, thought the tree, if only it was already night, if only the candles were already lit, and Later, what will happen then? Will trees from the forest come and look at me? Will the sparrows peep in the windows? Shall I grow roots here and keep my decorations winter and summer? How little it knew. All those longings had brought on a very bad bark ache, and it was just as bad for the tree to have the bark ache as it was for us to have a headache. At last the candles were lighted, and a blaze of splendor. The tree trembled so much in all of its branches that one of the candles set fire to a twig, and what a scorching pain it was. "Oh dear," cried the young ladies, and they quickly put out the fire. Now the tree did not even dare to quiver. It was awful. It was so afraid of losing some of its decorations and felt quite overwhelmed with all the splendor. And now at last the folding doors were flung open and dozens of noisy children came trembling in as if they were going to upset the whole tree. The older people followed more calmly behind. The little ones stood quite speechless, but only for a moment. Then they shrieked again with excitement, danced joyfully round it, and took down one present after another. "What are they doing?" thought the tree. "What is going to happen?" The candles burnt right down to the branches and were put out as fast as they were burnt. Then the children were allowed to plunder the tree. They rushed at it with such force that all the branches cracked. Plunder. If it had not been fastened to the ceiling by the string and the gold star, it would have toppled over. The children danced round and round with their beautiful toys. No one looked at the tree except the old nurse, who was peering about among the branches to see if by any chance a fig or apple had been forgotten. "A story, demanded the children, pulling a little fat man towards the tree, and he sat down just beneath it. "Here we are in the green wood," he said, "and it will do the tree a lot of good to listen. But I shall only tell one story. Would you like the one about Hey Diddle Diddle, or the one about Humpty Dumpty, who fell down the stairs and yet accented through the throne and married the princess?" "Hey Diddle Diddle!" cried some of them. "Humpty Dumpty!" cried the others, and there was a great deal of shrieking and shouting. Only the fir tree stood quite silent, and thought, "Am I not to be in this at all? Am I not to take part in anything? But I had been in the evening fun. It had played its part." So the little fat man told about Humpty Dumpty, who fell down the stair and yet ascended the throne and married the princess. And the children clapped their hands, shouting, "Another! Another!" for they wanted the story of Hey Diddle Diddle too. But they had to be content with Humpty Dumpty. The fir tree stood quite silent and thoughtful. Never had the birds in the forest told such a story as that. Humpty Dumpty fell down the stairs and yet married the princess. "Well, well, that's the way things happen in the world," thought the fir tree, believing it must all have been true, because such a nice man had told the story. "Well, who knows? I too may fall down and win my princess." And I looked forward to being decorated again the next day with candles and toys, tinsel and fruit. "Tomorrow I shall not tremble," it thought. "I shall rejoice in all my splendor. Tomorrow I shall hear a story of Humpty Dumpty again, and perhaps one about Hey Diddle Diddle too." and it remained quiet and thoughtful all night. In the morning the man came in with one of the servants. Not the festivities are going to begin again. Now the festivities are going to begin again, thought the tree. But they dragged it out of the room and up the stairs to the attic, and then they put it in the dark corner where no daylight portrayed. What does this mean? Thought the tree. Where am I to do? What am I to do in this place? What am I to hear? And it leant against the wall, lost in deep thought. It had time enough for days and nights went by, and nobody came up. When at last someone did come, it was only to move some big boxes into a corner. The tree was so well hidden away that one might think it had been quite forgotten. It's winter outside now, thought the tree. The ground is hard and covered with snow. I cannot be planted now, and that is probably why I am to be sheltered here until springtime. How considerate of them. How kind people are. I only wish it weren't so dark here and so terribly lonely. Not even a little hare. After all, it was nice in the forest where the snow covered the ground and the hare sped by. Yes, even when it jumped over me, it was fun. But I did not think so then. The loneliness is perfectly unbearable. Eek, eek, squeaked the mouse just then, running out of the floor and followed by another one. They sniffed at the fir tree, slipping in and out among the branches. It's frightfully cold, said the two little mice. Otherwise, it's very pleasant here. Do you think so, you old fir tree? I'm not old at all, answered the fir tree. There are much older than I. Where do you come from? Asked the mice, and what do you know? Weren't they outrageously inquisitive? Tell us about the most attractive places on earth. Have you ever been there? Have you ever been in a larder where there are cheeses on the shelves and hams hung from the ceilings, where you can dance over tallow candles and slip and thin and come out fat? I don't know that place, replied the tree, but I know the forest where the sun shines and the birds sing, and it told us all about its youth, and the little mice had never heard anything like it. They listened very attentively and said, My, what a lot you must have seen! How happy you must have been! I, said the fir tree, thinking about what it had been saying. Yes, after all, those days were rather pleasant. Then it told them all about Christmas Eve, and it had been decorated with sweets and candles. Oh, said the little mice, how happy you've been, you old fir tree. I'm not old at all, said the fir tree. It was only this winter that I came out of the forest. I am in the prime of my life, and I've only just stopped growing for the time being. How beautifully you tell things, said the little mice, and the next night they brought 4 other mice to hear the tree tell all about its life, and the more the tree told, the more clearly did it remember everything, and thought that those really were quite happy days, and they may return. They may return once more. Humpty Dumpty fell down the stairs, and still he won a princess. Perhaps I too may marry a princess. And the fir thought of the most adorable little birch that grew out of the forest. For, to the fir tree, that little birch was a beautiful, real princess. Well, who is Humpty Dumpty? Asked the little mice. The fir tree then told them the whole story, for it remembered every word that the little mice were so delighted that they almost leaped to the very top of the tree. The next night many more mice came, and on Saturday evening 2 rats appeared, but they said the story was not amusing, which made the little mice rather sad, for now they did not think much of it either. Do you know only the one story? Asked the rats. Only that one, answered the tree. I heard it on the happiest evening of my life, but I never knew then how happy I was. It's a very boring story. Don't you know any about pork or tallow candles? Asked the latter stories. Asked any larder stories? No, said the tree. Thank you then. We shan't bother you any more. And the rats and they returned to the bosom of their families. Finally the little mice kept away too, and now the tree sighed. After all, it was rather cozy when those nibble little mice sat round listening to what I told them. All that is over too, but I shall remember to enjoy myself when I'm taken out from here. But when would that happen? Well, it happened one morning when people came to tidy up the attic. The boxes were moved and the tree was pulled out from the corner and thrown rather brutally on the floor. But at once one of the men dragged it towards the stairs, where it saw daylight once more. Now life is beginning again, thought the tree. It felt as fresh air and the first sunbeams. And now it was out of the courtyard. And now it was out in the courtyard, all happening so quickly that the tree quite forgot to look at itself. There was so much to see all around. The courtyard was next to the green. The courtyard was next to the garden, where all the flowers were in bloom. The roses hung in giant, fragrant clusters over the little fence. The lime trees were in full blossom, and the swallows flew high and low, twittering, "Kiwi, kiwi, my love has come." But it was not the fir tree they meant. "Now I am really going to live," exclaimed the fir tree, bristling with happiness, and it stretched out all its branches. Alas, they were all withered and yellow. It found itself in a corner amongst weeds and nettles. The tinsel star was still fastened on the top and sparkling in the bright sunshine. Some of the merry children who had danced round the tree at Christmas time, and who had taken such a delight in it then, were playing in the courtyard. One of them, smallest, rushed at it and pulled off the gold star. "Look what is still hanging on that ugly old Christmas tree," said he, trampling on the branches and crackled under his feet. And the tree looked at the beauty and splendor of the flowers in the garden, and then looked at itself, and wished it had remembered in the dark corner of the attic. It thought of the fresh green youth in the forest, of the merry Christmas Eve, and of the little mice which had listened with so much pleasure to the stories of Humpty Dumpty. All over and done with. So the poor tree why didn't I enjoy then while I could? Done with, done with. And the man came and chopped the tree up into small pieces. They made quite a heap. A great blaze flared up under his big copper, and the tree moaned so deeply that each moan was left with a faint shot. The children were attracted by the sound, made a ring round the fire, gazed into it, and shouted, "Bing bang!" But at each explosion, which was a deep moan, the tree thought of the beautiful summer days in the forest, of the starry winter nights out there. It thought of Christmas Eve and Humpty Dumpty, the only story it had ever heard or been able to tell. And by now the tree was burnt to ashes. The boys played in the courtyard, and the youngest one wore on his breast the gold star which had decorated the tree on the happiest evening of its life. Now that was done with, and the tree was done with, and the story was done with, done with, done with. And that's what happened to all stories. Huh. I've never heard that one before. It really shows you that you have to appreciate what you have right here and right now. Right? That's why Mama's always trying to be content in every situation that she's in. Yes, I get sad, and yes, I cry. I know you've seen me cry a lot, especially when I was living at home, but you gotta kind of just, in this life, you gotta take the good with the bad, baby, and you just gotta keep going no matter what, because this life is always gonna be hard. That's why Mama used to sing you all the time. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth and carry me home. Well, I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming forth to carry me home. A band of angels coming after me, coming forth and carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Well, sometimes I'm up and sometimes I'm down, coming forth to carry me home. But still I feel my soul is heavenly bound, coming forth and carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth and carry me home. Now if you get there before I do, coming forth to carry me home. Tell all my friends I'll be coming there too, coming forth and carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth and carry me home. I'll be coming home, coming home, coming home to you, coming forth to carry me home. You know my word is good, you know my word is true, coming forth and carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth and carry me home. That's Mama's favorite song, and it's because it shows the heartache. It's such a sad song, but it's, at the same time, it's like there's redemption. You know, Mama used to sing that song to you all the time. Because I love you. And just shows the complexities of the world. It's such a short song, but it's a good song. Alright, so we're going to go into Aesop's Fables. And we're going to go into the stag and his reflection. In the cool of the evening, a stag came to a clearing in the woods, where there was a deep, steep pool bending down. He caught sight of his own reflection in the quick water. How strong and beautiful my antlers are, he thought, but my legs, how thin and ugly they are, oh my. I'm embarrassed to see them. As the stag looked away in shame, he heard hounds barking in the distance, and he knew that hunters were approaching. He bounced towards the wood, but as he ducked beneath the trees, his antlers became ensnared in some low branches. Those cursed antlers, have made me easy prey for my hunters and their dogs, he thought in despair. But after much kicking and straining, his strong legs finally helped him to break free of his trap and quickly carried him to safety. We often despise the things that might save us. Look at that. He was like, look at my antlers, they're so nice, and look at my legs, they're thinner, right? He often despised the things that might save us. Women are like this, baby. Some women want curly hair when they have straight hair. Some women who have straight hair want curly hair. Just be happy with what you have. You're beautiful. You're beautiful and you're perfect. Just be happy with what you have. Alright, so the next, and there's the antlers and the legs. His legs are just fine. There's nothing wrong with them. Look at the kitty cat on the next page. Alright, so this is the cat, the rooster, and the mouse. A young mouse begged his mother to let him take his first look at the wide world outside the mouse hole. Very well, she answered, but don't stay long and come back and tell me everything you see. The little mouse had not been gone 5 minutes when he came dashing back into the mouse hole as fast as he could run. My dear, whatever happened? Asked his mother. Oh, mother, said the little mouse, trembling all over. There are such strange creatures out there. First I saw a pretty animal with soft striped fur and yellow eyes. When she saw me, she waved her long tail as if she were glad to see me. But then I saw the most terrible monster. His head was all red and his feet had long claws, and when he saw me, he opened up his mouth and let out a horrible shriek of cock-a-doodle-doo. I ran away as fast as I could. My dear, said the mother, the pretty creature you saw was a cat, and she likes to eat young mice, like you, for dinner. And the terrible monster was nothing but a rooster, who only eats seeds and grains. Next time you go out, be more careful and remember never to judge others by their looks. Appearances can be deceiving. Look at that. The little mouse thought that the beautiful cat was on his side and the rooster was not, but it's the other way around, right? The north wind and the sun. Oh, everything in the sky, the sun and the stars and the rain and the snow, and the north wind boasted that he was the strongest. There is nothing that can resist me, the north wind cried, blowing such a blast that roofs lost their shingles and streams turned into ice. Are you sure? Asked the sun. The sky and the land were full of strong things. Why, it might even be that I am stronger than you. You, roared the north wind and laughed at the icy laugh. Yes, why not? Let's put it to the test, answered the sun. Do you see the traveler down below us? I'm sure I can make him take off his cloak. Are you strong enough to do the same? Of course, boasted the north wind. He stood howling blasts of frigid air to tear the cloak away from the traveler. But the man shivered in the cold, only wrapped the cloak tighter around himself. No gust of that north wind's blows could rip it from his grasp. Now it is my turn, said the sun, and he sent warm beams of light down to where the traveler was walking. The man sighed with relief and pushed his cloak back off his shoulders. Steadily the sun shone, until the traveler pulled off his hat, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and at last took off his cloak, and laid them down to rest in the shade of a nearby tree. Gentle persuasions succeed where force fails. And look at the heifer and the ox. On the same farm there lived a foolish young heifer and a sturdy old ox. While the ox toiled in the fields, the heifer grazed happily in the lush green meadow. One day, as the ox came trudging past, pulling a heavy plow. She called out to him, "My friend, I pity you. It must be terrible to work so hard. Don't you wish you could live as I do, without a care in the world?" "Everything has its reasons," answered the old ox, "and I am well content with my lot in life." On very next day the farmer went the morning roasting the heifer, cleaning her hooves, and stringing garlands and flowers around her neck. "Look, my friend," she called to the ox, "don't you envy me now?" "Let's wait to see what the day holds," replied the ox. When the farmer had finished grooming his heifer, he laid her to market. Several strangers immediately took notice. "What a lovely animal," one of them said. "She will make a fine meal for our feast tonight." "Oh no," wailed the heifer. "The ox was right. I would rather have felt the yoke on my neck than the knife. Better a long life of toil than a short life of ease." Alright, baby, tomorrow's gonna be the tortoise and the hare. Alright. Karina, baby, Mama loves you. I love you, and I miss you, and I can't wait to see you. I love you so incredibly much. You have no idea. You have no idea how much I love you, how much I miss you. When I had you every second of every day. We'd go places. You'd pick out what you wanted to learn in the morning. We'd do school in the morning, every morning. And then you'd pick out whatever you wanted to wear, and then I'd read you off the list of things that we had on the schedule for the day, and you'd pick out where you wanted to go. The only thing Mama ever made you go to was story time, because I wanted someone else to read you storybooks, besides from just me. You know, so we'd go to story time, we'd go out to Mana to eat, go to another story time, we'd go to a play date, we'd go out to the park, and then Papa would be home, so we'd go home. Papa was coming home that day. We had it really good. We really did. Papa worked hard outside the home, Mama worked hard inside the home. We had it really, really good. There were hard days, you know, just like the ox. But you have to take everything that you have with gratitude, your entire situation in life. Don't get bitter, just stay sweet. You know, all this stuff that's happening right now is not fair. But let me tell you this though, baby, life isn't fair, and you have to wait and not get tired of waiting, you know. My papa had it really, really hard in life, and so did my mama. And they didn't give up. And now my mama has a really good life. My papa, your grandfather is up in heaven, hopefully, and, you know, just living out his days and happy with his girlfriend, like he loved so intensely that he decided to go to heaven with her. And your grandmother is living in Florida with a great man. It's a good thing. Life is hard and it's full of struggles, and that's what this life is. It's hard and it's full of struggles, and it's just, you never, ever, ever give up. Every single cell in your body is fighting to be alive, Karina. You fight to be alive too. Just stay alive. Things might not be okay right now, but they will be okay one day. And things aren't perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. People make their own ideas of, you know, what perfect is, but there's really no such thing as perfect. You just have to live every single day. Love yourself, love others. Don't hurt yourself, don't hurt others. Try not to let other people hurt you. That's the hardest part, to try. You can't control what other people do to you. Karina, baby, I love you. Let's sing Lila Tove and good night to you. Lila Tove, may your dreams come true. We sing Lila Tove, may Israel protect you throughout the night until we reach the morning light. My rainbow baby, I love you. And I miss you. I love you so much. Like Papa always used to say, Mama's his sun, Papa's my moon, and you're our rainbow baby. We will always love you, Karina. I love you so much. I miss you so much. I can't wait to see you. Good night, my baby.